For example 2, we have x squared minus 5x minus 13 equals 0. Notice that we have highest to lowest power and equal to 0. So this quadratic equation is already in the standard form. We're ready to find our values of a, b, and c. So a doesn't look like any number is written, but remember that means it's positive 1. B is the middle coefficient, that would be a negative 5, and C is our constant term, negative 13. So x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2 times a. Let's make our substitutions. X would equal a negative times our b value. Again, b is a negative number, so be sure to include that negative in that quantity. Plus or minus the square root of b squared. Again, minus 5 goes in the quantity. Minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, minus 13. All divided by 2 times a, that's 2 times 1. Going back to x equals negative times negative 5 gives us positive 5, plus or minus. Under the radical, remember, no matter if your b value is positive or negative, once we square that quantity, it will be a positive product. So the quantity of negative 5 squared is positive 25. Now we have 3 factors to multiply. Negative 4 times 1 times negative 13. Negative times positive times negative. So that means we will be adding something to 25. So when we multiply 4 times 1, we get 4, and 4 times 13 would be 52. So we'll be adding 52 to 25. In the denominator, 2 times 1 makes 2. Now let's add and see what we have under this radical. 25 plus 52 would make 77. So I'm just going to cross it out and write it simplified. Now with 77, we're going to go ahead and use our factor ladder and see if 77 has any factors that are perfect squares. I know it's divisible by 7. That leaves 11. And 11 only has factors of 1 and 11. So 7 and 11 are the only factors of 77. There are no perfect square factors. Therefore, 77 has already simplified. So we just happen to end up with a radical term. That's okay. So we have x equals 5 plus or minus the square root of 77 divided by 2. Now if you're thinking, how am I supposed to plot this and draw the sketch of this parabola when it says square root of 77? We need to know about how much is that with a decimal. So with your calculator, you can use your square root function to find the decimal equivalent to square root of 77. And if you just take that out to maybe 2 decimal places, it's about 8.77. So the 2 solutions that we generate would be x equals 5 minus 8.77 divided by 2, and x equals 5 plus 8.77 divided by 2. So now we'll be able to find at least a decimal value that we can find on our x-axis. So when I take 5 minus 8.77, I'm going to have a negative value, and dividing by 2 leaves negative 3.8 divided by 2. So that would be about negative 1.9. So that is an ordered pair of negative 1.9 comma 0. That's an x-intercept or a 0 of the function. For the other solution, when I add 5 plus 8.77, I'm going to have 13.8 divided by 2, and that's a positive number divided by a positive number, and that leaves 6.9. So the ordered pair, 6.9 comma 0, is the 0 of the function or the x-intercept. Let's make a sketch of this parabola. Our x-intercepts of negative 1.9 compared to 6.9. Remember, 6.9 would be much farther away from 0 on the x-axis. Go back to the lead coefficient. So just based on the lead coefficient of the quadratic equation, we'll determine which way this parabola opens. Since it's a positive 1 for the lead coefficient, this will be opening upwards. So our parabola would look something like this.